She thought she was going to start a new life. She had a college degree. She had a future. She had a plan. Within 24 hours of leaving home, she ended up chained to a bed, sold to a stranger twice her age in a village that looked the other way. This is Blind Mountain, and the question the film asks you is not whether she'll escape. It's whether you could survive what she had to do to get there. Her name is Bai Shuimei. The film opens in northern China in the early 1990s. Bai Shuimei is a young woman who has just graduated from university. Her parents sacrificed everything to put her through college, and now they're counting on her to find a good job and make it all worth it. One day, a man calling himself Manager Wu approaches her. He claims to work for a pharmaceutical company and tells her she can earn good money collecting medicinal herbs in a remote village in the countryside. Since another woman would be joining them, Shuimei agrees and takes the job. What she doesn't know is that Manager Wu and the woman with him are working together, running a scheme to lure young women from the city. When they arrive in the countryside, the three of them sit down to eat. Afterward, a contact of Manager Wu shows up to drive them to a secluded village. As soon as they arrive, Shuimei notices several men looking at her with unusual interest, while Manager Wu is deep in a serious conversation with one of them, clearly sealing some kind of deal. Before leaving, he calls his female accomplice aside and tells Shuimei to wait. After drinking her tea, Shuimei loses consciousness. When she wakes up, Manager Wu and the woman are gone. So is her money. So are her ID documents. And that's when the truth hits her. She has been sold against her will to a local family. The family makes their intentions clear. Shuimei is to become the wife of their son, Huang Degui, a man more than twice her age. She protests, she begs, no one listens. She is locked in a room, and her ordeal begins. On what the family calls their wedding day, the men of the village celebrate outside. Shuimei is locked inside, unable to speak or move freely. When Huang Degui enters the room to consummate the marriage, he can't bring himself to go through with it and walks out. The other men mock him for his inexperience. Desperate for a grandchild, Degui's parents pressure him to act. The family works together to force the situation, and that night, what Degui's family had planned is carried out. Shuimei's nightmare deepens. The next morning, Degui's mother, Ding Xiuying, brings food and tells Shuimei she has no choice but to accept her life here. Shuimei pushes her away in anger. Degui comes in and strikes her. She runs outside and is immediately surrounded and blocked by the villagers. She goes to the village chief and begs for help. He pretends not to see, because Shuimei is not the first woman this has happened to in this village, and she won't be the last. She is brought back to the family, bound and shackled at the ankle like a prisoner. In the depth of her despair, Shuimei tries to hurt herself. She is stopped and rushed to the hospital. When she returns, a neighbor named Chen Chunli comes to visit with another woman, someone who was also sold into a forced marriage here. Chen explains that 4 years ago the same thing happened to her. Over time, she had no choice but to accept it. She advises Shuimei to pretend to comply, to wait patiently for the right moment to escape. Shuimei follows the advice. She cuts her hair and puts on the mask of an obedient wife. Since the family is desperate for her to get pregnant, Huang Degui dutifully tends to the fields every night, while Shuimei quietly plans her escape. One day, Degui's cousin arrives at the village, Huang Decheng, a local teacher. Shuimei learns that it was Decheng who took her to the hospital after her breakdown, and she thanks him. Before he leaves, he gives her some books to keep her mind occupied. One day, while washing clothes at the river with Chen, Shuimei asks about the mountain paths, which routes might be passable if she needed to get out. Chen points out what she knows. When an opportunity presents itself, Shuimei tells Ding Xiuying she's just stepping out for a moment, then runs. But the family figures it out almost immediately. Degui is sent after her. He catches up to her with other men from the village. Back in the village, he beats her publicly, a punishment and a warning to everyone watching. She had tried once. She had failed. And the village had just made sure everyone knew what happened to women who ran. A few days later, Decheng returns with more books. He explains that the people here simply never had access to education. Their minds have stayed closed, their lives shaped by tradition they've never questioned. He's the only one in the village who had studied and seen the world beyond. Hoping he might be her way out, Shuemei pleads with him to help her escape. He refuses. He's Daegi's cousin, and he's afraid of getting caught in the middle. Despite everything, Shuemei keeps looking for a way out. One afternoon, the mail carrier passes through the village. She quietly approaches him and asks him to carry a letter to her parents, promising to pay him when he comes back. He agrees. What she doesn't know, every single one of her letters has been intercepted. Daegui has been paying the carrier behind her back to make sure nothing gets out. Meanwhile, the neighbors ask Ding Shuying whether Shuemei is pregnant yet. The mother-in-law says it's not clear. Her belly is still small. Shuemei tries to borrow money from Chen to fund another escape attempt, but Chen refuses. She explains that since arriving in the village, she has never once touched money. The villagers know that a woman with money will run. And besides, Chen adds, she no longer has any intention of leaving. She has 2 children now. Then, Decheng returns again with more books. This time, something has shifted. He admits that he has developed feelings for Shuemei and can't get her out of his mind. Seeing no other way, Shuemei decides to play along, using his feelings as leverage, hoping he'll follow through on his promise to help her. She is willing to do whatever it takes. But before anything can go further between them, they're called in for dinner. Later, during a village celebration, Decheng and Shuemei slip away to a private room. But when they're done, Daegui walks in and catches them together. He attacks both of them. When things calm down, the matter is brought before the village chief, partly because Daegui still owes Decheng a significant debt. Later, when Shuemei is sent to the village store to buy supplies on credit, she notices the shopkeeper is attracted to her. She takes her chance and asks him for money, but he wants something in return. Cornered and desperate, she agrees. He leads her to a back room and the transaction takes place. This is what survival looked like now, not escape, just another day. One day, Shuemei makes another escape attempt, and this time, she actually makes it to the neighboring town. But just as the bus is about to leave, Daegi shows up and stops it. He tells everyone she is his wife. The bystanders step back. Even the police don't intervene. The men from the village drag her back. Still, every time the mail carrier passes through, Shuemei slips him a letter for her family. She keeps hoping that one day, help will come. Time passes. One day, as Ding Shuying brings food, she notices that Shuemei's belly has grown. Shuemei is pregnant. The family saw a baby. Shuemei saw a lock, the final one. In a moment of overwhelming despair, she tries to hurt herself again. Ding Shuying begs her to stop, reminding her that she's carrying her grandchild. Even in failure, Shuemei doesn't let go of hope. She befriends a young boy from the village, Li Qingshan, who is willing to help her in whatever small ways he can. And gradually, the villagers start using her as a teacher for the local children, since the village's only teacher has left. Like she always does, she hands another letter to the mail carrier, still not knowing that not one of her letters has ever reached her family. Sometime later, Shuemei gives birth to a baby boy. Ding Shuying is overjoyed. The family believes the baby will keep Shuemei anchored here forever. If this story deserves to be heard, hit like and subscribe. It helps more people find it. But Shuemei doesn't stop. Then one day, Li Qingshan comes to her with something she never expected to hear. He tells her that every letter she gives to the mail carrier goes straight to Daegui. She is devastated. Every letter, every month, every hope she had carried to that mailbox, Daegui had collected them all. But the boy feels for her, and he makes a promise. He'll deliver the next letter himself, in person, to the town. The next day, after class, he comes back beaming. He delivered it. As thanks, Shuemei gives him an egg. And finally, her father receives the letter. He goes immediately, traveling to the remote village with 2 police officers to bring his daughter home. When they arrive, he tells her it's time to go, but the angry villagers block their way. The officers explain that what's been done here is illegal. The villagers won't budge. They tell the police if they arrest Huang Daegui, they'll have to arrest every man in this village, because every single one of them bought their wife the same way. Outnumbered and overwhelmed by the crowd and the village chief's interference, the officers are forced to back down. They leave, promising to return with more men. Shuemei's father stays behind, refusing to leave his daughter alone. But as soon as the police are gone, Daegi tries to drag Shuemei back inside. Her father steps in to defend her. Daegi strikes him. In that moment, Shuime picks up an axe and ends it. The film closes on that image. A woman who wanted nothing more than her freedom, pushed to the very edge of what a human being can endure. A village that chose silence, a system that looked away. This film is fiction. But the practice it depicts, women trafficked and sold as wives in remote Chinese villages, was real, documented, and far more widespread than anyone officially admitted. And a question that doesn't leave you easily: how many others are still there? If this story stayed with you, subscribe and like this video. See you at the next one.